The case that I decided to do was the Engel versus Vitale, I hope I'm saying that right, case. And in this case, it was basically about states requiring school or staff and students at a school to recite a certain prayer each morning. I chose this particular case because I am a woman of God and very strong in my faith. And I actually just transferred to a school where the principal is a pastor's wife. So these type of cases intrigue me just because I like to see how the rules of religion in schools came about and what you can and cannot do. I also came from a school. I came from a school where they were right next door to a church, and we had a very strong partnership with them. And so it's interesting to see some of the things that we may have done that weren't supposed to, or that we could have done, and just everything like that. So back to the case. It's Engel versus Vitale. So the facts of this case is that a New York State board wrote a prayer and required the staff and students of their schools to recite this prayer each school morning after the Pledge of Allegiance. The state board claims that the prayer was voluntary and that it was a non-denominational prayer, but a parent named Stephen Engel did not agree with this practice. They felt that it was a violation of the Establishment Clause in the First Amendment, so they went to the courts. And I say they because Stephen Engel was the leader of the group and the initial parent, but there was a group of, I want to say, about 10 or so parents that backed him in this case. Oh, and the prayer at question was, Almighty God, we acknowledge our dependence upon thee, and we beg thy blessings upon us, our parents, our teachers, and our country. Amen. So the issues of the case would be, is it unconstitutional for a state board to write and require students and staff to participate in reciting this prayer every morning at school? The answer to that question, of course, would be yes. The decisions of the case. It was a 6-1 vote, and 2 members did not participate in this voting. It was declared that the requiring of the recitation of a government written prayer does in fact violate the Establishment Clause that prohibits the government from establishing any sort of religion or prohibiting anyone from expressing their religion. The reasoning behind the case, of course, would be that the Establishment Clause does protect individuals from being forced to practice what they don't believe. In the Establishment Clause, it says that Congress cannot establish any form of religion within the state, and they're also not allowed to prohibit anyone from practicing those beliefs. So by the state not only writing a prayer for the schools, but also requiring that it's said and recited every morning goes against that Establishment Clause, because you are forcing a student to pray to a God whom they may or may not believe in. Let's see. And it says even with the prayer being voluntary and non-denominational, by them writing the prayer again, it shows favor towards religion. And there may be students who don't practice religion whatsoever, so that could be a conflict. So the separate opinions, the Justice Stewart, his name was Potter Stewart, disagreed and felt that he felt that the Establishment Clause was meant to only prohibit the establishment of state-sponsored churches. So a church that the state sponsors as a whole. He felt that was what the Establishment Clause was used for, and that not all government involvement with religion was prohibited. So he also felt that because the prayer was non-denominational and voluntary, that we were doing, or that his colleagues, I suppose, were doing an injustice to the Constitution by not allowing students to recite this prayer or say it if they chose to do so. So my analysis of this case was one, first, it set the stage for a similar case and then cases that followed this similar case. A lot of the cases that it was talking about said that it referred back to this initial case, the Engel versus Vitale case, in determining whether students are allowed to, well, prayer before graduation, prayer before football games, student-led prayers, etc., etc. The list goes on. So this is important for the administrators because it's important for me personally because it teaches me that my religious views need to be kept to myself, or at least I cannot impose my beliefs on other people. Although I am a firm Christian, it is very important for me to respect other people's beliefs and religious practices because I am pretty much supposed to be Switzerland when it comes to religion as an administrator. And another thing that I thought about when I was doing this case was that the moment of silence and how we do that, because there was another case that talked about having a minute for prayer before school. I believe it was in Arizona. Having a minute before prayer was unconstitutional and stuff like that. I'm not going to go into that case, but I feel that the moment of silence satisfies both of or all of the qualities of the Establishment Clause by saying that you cannot establish religion, but you also can't prohibit people from practicing. So having a moment of silence each and every morning before school starts allows those students who want to pray or need to pray because of their religious beliefs, they can do so with silence all around. And those who don't want to participate, they don't have to. They just sit silently and do whatever they want to. So overall, this case was very interesting to look into, and it was a great addition to what I've read in our course textbook. So I really enjoyed doing this case, and I have really enjoyed and learned a lot from this course.